obviously one of the points before we started this, obviously we was talking briefly, obviously about the international developers and teams that you guys have, and this may be a bit controversial for the local markets, but do you feel removing the focus on language, obviously as you developed into obviously an international business, obviously there's going to be a point where if you set up in the UK and Norway, there obviously has got to be a universal language. So it's probably a bit more straightforward for you guys in that sense. But what I do find, and in specifically within Oslo, you have so many great companies and consultancies, but I get with the consultancies that you need the language, obviously Norwegian or whatever the country that you may be in, obviously they're the mother tongue. But what I find is that they lose out on so much different ways of thinking and different approaches because everyone does everything differently, and you miss out on some really top talent. And then some top talent is literally shoehorned only within a small 10% or 20% of actual employment because they don't have the required language. And don't get me wrong, I know why that consultancies need it for like the public sector and things like that, but it's just crazy to see how rigid that still is even today.
And I could not agree more. So myself personally, I'm from Denmark, where there is a little bit of that mentality as well, sort of the Danish values. And, you know, if you live in Denmark, you should start learning to speak the language and this kind of stuff, and jobs, even though they might not be working only within the Danish market, they'll require Danish, this kind of stuff. And personally myself, I've always taken the international route. So I did all my studies in sort of the international courses that we had and so on. And because for me, that's absolutely the future. I mean, this whole bordered work environment where, you know, we only exist within a country, and we only, we only go for the customers that speak the native language or whatever it might be. I think that's going away. And so I think our focus on international people and sort of, like the sort of the common language being English in the company and this kind of stuff, it came very naturally. The founders, when founding Pexip, were international themselves, right? So from that, it's super natural. And then as we've grown, we've just come to realize that the more, and again, I go back to sort of the melting pot metaphor here, is like the more different perspectives you have in that melting pot, the better the outcome's gonna be, right? Like if you focus on, like, if you target very specific people all with the same culture and the same languages and the same things, you end up like kind of you close a lot of doors, right? And when you close those doors, you go into this predetermined route of somewhere, and that has an end at some point, in my opinion. Whereas if you do have a lot of international people and you speak a lot of different languages, there's just a lot of stuff that comes from that. And I mean, in Pexip, I think actually, so of course in the Oslo office, we do have a lot of Norwegian people. In the UK office, we have a lot of UK people. But I actually, within the engineering team itself, I actually think that UK and Norwegian are sort of among the minorities of countries or of cultures that we have, and that just makes it super exciting. I mean, even just on a like kind of free time level, getting to talk to people from all over the world, for me that's super exciting, and just like kind of hearing national dishes in Hungary or Russia or Serbia or wherever, right? Like all this kind of stuff, for me, that's just super cool. And it creates like this natural curiosity towards your colleagues, right? And again, we go back to this like kind of people who are curious and passionate and if you add some natural curiosity towards your colleagues in that, and kind of getting to know them and getting to know, like, because they're so different from you, getting to know where they come from, what their perspective on life is, and this kind of stuff, I think it just creates a unique value in the company that can't be quantified in any way. Like, you can't, I don't see why you wouldn't be if you had the choice. If you had the choice to be international, I don't see why you wouldn't be. And I don't see why you'd limit yourself to something. And like you said, I understand consultancies that work with state contracts and this kind of stuff. They have certain obligations, and that makes complete sense. But there are companies that choose to be national companies for no reason, and or require the national language within an office in certain country. For example, let's say if we require Norwegian in the Oslo office, right? That does happen, and I don't see the point. I don't see what they're possibly getting from that, but I do see what they're losing out on.